G'day folks, I want to talk a bit about my workbench here. You can notice that there's something odd about the legs on my workbench, and that's because I added some extra height to the workbench. So this workbench was somewhere around about 31 inches high, which is ideal for my height. So, because I'm 5'9". I had to do it because of the extreme back pain that I suffer day in, day out. I get to the point at the end of the day, I can't even walk properly. So I had to raise the bench. I had no choice. And yes, it has somewhat eased the pain. So I'm really happy about that. I can now carve without having to crouch over the workbench. I can carve again without having to raise the bench. I made these extra stilts, and then I would have my son, because he's the bodybuilder. I had him lift the bench, and I would place the stilts underneath, and that would raise it to about 40 inches, basically to my throat. No, just kidding there. But anyway, it was too high, but I didn't have to crouch at all that way. So the great thing is now I don't have to make myself a carver's workbench, and that's a good thing. The downside is that the planing is a lot difficult now. See, in the past, when they just used to work with hand tools, they would have a low bench for a reason, so you can put your back into it rather than your arms. So your back, your legs, goes into planing. And also when you're cross-cutting at the bench, or when you're ripping at the bench, it's a lot simpler. And it's also, when you're cross-cutting, you seem to be a lot more accurate, because you're looking down on the workpiece rather than across. I don't even know why you're more accurate. You just are. But if you've trained, it's like anything really. I mean, you can do the wrong thing, but if you train yourself in doing the wrong thing, it ends up being the right way, because it just seems to work But it's like the guitarists when they have the thumbs over over where it's almost touching the strings. That's not the right way. The right way is the classical version of having the thumb pressing on the neck, whatever you call it. But if you train that way, then, the wrong way, then it's going to work. So, that's the thing. It's you cross cut, is a little bit more accurate. But that's the idea about why I raised the workbench. So it is a significant, difference from 30 or 31 to 35, and how I did that was when I cut these add-ons, I used a miter saw, which is, one that you can see there, the one that I restored, the miter box. And that's very accurate, and it has to be accurate. So this way I don't waste time in now, squaring it up with a plane and so forth. So it was I just added it straight off the saw. And the bottom part there that you can see, that was already there when I did raise it the first time. But it just, because it was, I did make it too low in the beginning. It wasn't the right height. So, and what I didn't glue it, I just attached it with screws. And I used a very long 150mm bugle head screws. And I'll show it to you here. There they are. And they've got, the star head on it. And these bugle batten screws, they just really, really hold this well. Now, ideally I should have used, because I believe, I don't know what, I don't even remember what the height is. Of course. Or whatever it is, I can't find the ruler. I know ideally I should have used 200mm length screws, but they didn't have it in that particular brand. So the ones that they were selling were the lower end, and they were at 200mm, but I didn't want to risk the screw breaking when I'm drilling it in. I've had experiences where the top would just snap. Yeah, so I didn't want that to happen. So what I did, I made the hole for the head to be a little bit larger. So, and I drilled in a little bit deeper, so the screw went in probably about a quarter way from the bottom there, and that just replaced it. That just made it what I needed it to be. So there's no glue, there's just screws, and the bottom part is also screwed with the ordinary screws. So if I did sell this workbench, and it was too high for someone else, then they can remove those screws and just take off the bottom there. But I think this is pretty much the standard, really, with many workbenches today at 35. That's 35 inches high. So that's it. That's really all I wanted to tell you. I made a tool rack over there. That's to replace the that silly wardrobe that I had. And the wardrobe, I pulled apart and I got all this beautiful timber out of it. So there's Western red cedar and there's hoop pine. And definitely these widths you don't get anymore. So I'm thinking maybe I destroyed a good bit of history, but you couldn't sell it, you couldn't no one would use it, definitely no one would use it. But I'm thinking maybe it was actually antique from the 20s or 30s. It was properly made. It was, they used dovetails. There's still, and the dovetails were nailed in. That was a common practice, and you actually see in Paul Sellers' videos where he screws his in. And many people thought that was odd, but it's not odd. It was common practice. Maybe it was just to used as a form of a clamp, rather than clamping everything. They just nailed it in, and you know, and Bob's your uncle. So I'm really pleased with that. It's good lumber. I'm gonna make something out of it. Well, I think that's it. There's nothing else to add. So anyway, hopefully you found this intuitive. Till next time, see you later.